Yes. Yeah, both of them nice, but you guys can live in this, maybe a little better. I think it gives people more space.
Yeah.
I mean, already they're something out.
Yeah.
But, this one is available.
Oh, earlier.
Yeah. But what if they move? Later on. Yeah.
Just starting here. Like, start in here, do morning, and then lunch and stayed in the other one.
Yeah.
That might be fun. I know. Yeah, that would be good. Think about that. And I think if it's, you know, I think we should probably start it. So we would only be.
Oh, yeah.
We just be, you know, welcome, introductory stuff.
Theater style.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then early breakfast snacks and, you know, the snacks coming in at 9:30 or whatever, and then also like snacks, lunch early, I don't know, figure out.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, yeah.
Bring it on going to,
Yeah. Oh, okay.
This has USB. This is from USB. This was a this computer is USB. None of these. Smaller. This. It's not.
Recording in progress.
There's sound.
There's sound.
So I think that they said because there's, well, I think that that's for the commission. What about for the council members? Do you think
We probably don't need, I mean, we're actually just part of the audience, right?
Right.
We're not at the table.
That was
Okay.
the,
Fine with me.
here, he gave me my gavel.
Oh, yeah, that's fine.
Oh, wait, no, somebody gave me a gavel, like it's a bag. Kind of funny.
Yeah, I am gonna stay in this comfortable chair.
I get you.
Like, I don't know, I need to.
Try to bring it in.
Well, I was thinking I wish I might pull my sweatshirt out of my backpack and just sort of claim one of the chairs.
Yeah, please do, please do. Love you to claim one of them. Oh, I do like these chairs. These are nice. Okay, no one's here. So it's not a lot, it's not a lot of last minute, oh, we want you to use this, or we want you to use that.
Yeah, I got,
Okay.
I think I got everything
Which is neat.
in the packet.
People are
So,
sharing.
yeah.
People are sharing. Which is the whole point.
I'm not connecting to that.
And Freddie is gonna call in.
Yeah.
From the Mission and Spa.
Yes.
I'm like, okay.
I have to find a different cord.
And so remember, they're going to do their presentation, so they wanted to chime in, they wanted to plug in. Nolan Tam.
They can, if it's in the packet, I can
Okay.
run
I
it.
don't think it's in the packet, they didn't have it yesterday.
Oh, so they want to directly plug into the system?
They might to share it. I don't know, that's why I'm hoping that they're gonna be here any minute. This is exciting, oh my gosh, I hope. I really hope that this works. It seems great, at least we've got everybody giving their stuff, right? Like that patio project. Yeah.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay, I have to go find the correct cord for this.
I'll do my Gmail in case anybody says, we're not coming.
Yeah. I'm using a computer that I'm not familiar with, so I'm not sure what cord I need. Yeah. Okay.
there's generally, I guess, I'm not sure, whatever it is. Kind of the common thing that all of us have, except every once in a while there's someone who doesn't have that. Or who's like, who is, it, you know, they always I like being here in the daytime, it's so pretty.
Huh?
I like being here in the daytime, it's so pretty. Yeah.
In the apricot orchard.
The one that says a historic orchard. I took a picture of with them too. Downtown?
Yeah.
Yes, okay. Somebody just came in, she just went to take a.
So we should put the things over there in the back.
Yeah.
Julie, Crystal, very nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
I wear a mask just to be cautious.
I
and
think
respect
everybody
everybody's
gets to do that.
sensibility.
So Mary Jo is gonna come back, and so she'll be able to tell you how to hook up. Mhm.
Good.
Yeah, since we don't have the tours.
Yes, we've already done it, right?
Well, I have.
It's gonna be sort of the first part. Just one second.
Yeah, you're right. It's like, you know it.
And then.
That's like the big thing.
Yes. Hello.
Your radio voice going, Mary Jo. Your radio voice going.
Hello, hello.
Yeah, Crystal. Nice to meet you.
Okay, well, I'm so glad you're
Jane
here.
Catalano's here with me, and we're gonna do the presentation together.
Great.
Anyway, but.
Having met you and all of the other boys, I'm supposed to have met in the building.
There's quite a few of us.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm so glad to be in this building. This is the first time I've actually had it in person. Yeah,
I can't say what I'm talking about, everything. Every day. And we had a guy in Shane, Karen, type in his point from our district. He was like, I don't know why, was that the word? I don't know if that was the word, but. Yeah.
Maybe I'm very proud.
While to get here, I think.
Yeah.
So how do you want us to?
What do you have?
I got a laptop with an HDMI port on it.
And a thumb drive, so.
And I got a.
I can do it through my computer if you want to, if it's on a
Just put
thumb
it on a thumb
drive,
drive?
or you can plug directly in and I unplug.
If you're doing it from PowerPoint, using your computer would be better, because then it won't mess up
Okay.
the fonts and stuff. But
Yeah,
we also
yeah.
could do it from a
It actually
PDF, which I
probably-
was on a thumb drive.
They didn't save it as a kind of a packaged file, so it might be better.
I did, but I don't know if you did anything to it after I left. So, okay, yeah, we could use a thumb drive then.
Better to use our laptop or the thumb drive.
I think it might be simpler to use yours.
Yeah,
Okay.
let's do yours.
Let me get you-
You on the video where you need it to be.
Well, it won't actually. Actually, the only way it gets on the Zoom video is if it's on
On your computer.
on both of my computers. I mean, so I have to have it on this one for it to go through to be able to share it. And this one is for that. So,
Why don't we use the thumb drive?
can you give me the thumb drive for my, and then use your computer?
Sure. Can you sort of follow along?
Yeah. Right. 'Cause,
Let me get a power cord.
and it's kind of long distance, so I'm gonna get you a little.
Is this a good place to do? Just love the right.
It's probably long enough for it, because it has to be.
You long enough?
No, you're,
That's a.
Actually. We could put it up on our lectern. Yeah, I may start on it soon.
right.
I know. I'm more of a.
Hi, Freddie. We are working on getting the big TV connected as usual. We're having a little problem, so I'll be right back.
I never know what to
We're excited. I mean, it's. You know, 3 days, right? Everybody was on. That's what that crazy. Much worse. In November 2018.
Barbara's last name was Barbara Camp. She was there when I first started.
So Mary Jo, can you begin by establishing a forum?
Yes, I can. Commissioner Crane? Here. Commissioner Carter? Here. Commissioner Bedard?
Here.
Commissioner Wheeler? You're muted, Freddie.
Sorry, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Commissioner G?
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Thank
Commissioner Fawcett. So we do have a quorum.
Thank you so much. Can we state the Pledge of Allegiance? Everybody can?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Are there any public comments on items that are not on the agenda?
You need 1 minute just to check public. I do not see any hands raised.
Then we will move on with informational items. The first one is a welcome. My name is Julie Crane. I am the current chair of the Library Commission, and I wanted to welcome everybody here today to this special meeting that we've called. The last time that we did this was before the COVID epidemic. And so today we're here with all of our wonderful supporters, friends, to talk about all of the wonderful things that are going on and planned for this year for the library. We're going to begin with a presentation by Nolan Tam. And the purpose was just to get us started to thinking about the library possibilities and hopefully prepare us for the next discussions that we're going to have. So I'll turn it over right now to Crystal?
Thank you, Julie. And thank you very much for inviting us to be here. We're very happy to sort of talk about libraries because that is something that is very, very dear to our heart. I'm Chris Knoll, I'm principal with Knoll and Tam Architects and joined by my partner.
I'm Jane Catalano, also principal of Nolan Dam.
And Knoll and Tam's an architecture firm, medium-sized one located in Berkeley. We're about 40 people. We specialize in public work of all different kinds in higher education, but with a particular specialization in libraries. You know, that's something that I've devoted my career to. And so we're really passionate about libraries, and we've planned and designed quite a few of them. We just wanted to give you a very informal presentation today about you know, kind of what libraries, you know, some of the libraries that we've done, what we sort of are thinking about what a 21st century library really is, and then to sort of contain, and then just basically have a conversation with you or take any questions that you might have about kind of any thoughts that you would like to have discussed about, you know, library planning, library design, where library spelling, whatever issues you might have. Also, you know, keeping it very informal, just feel free to raise your hand and interrupt anywhere along the way because we're perfectly happy to, you know, stop and have a discussion. So I'll sort of start out by, this is a list of some of the libraries that we've done in California over the last 30 years, yes. And our very first project, and when we founded the firm, was a library at UC Berkeley. And we've done all kinds of sort of libraries, both planning, renovations, and new construction. This is our Hayward Library, one of our more. Yes, sir.
Excuse me, Mary Jo, is it possible for the slides to be able to be seen on the Zoom?
They will be there in just a minute. I'm working on it. I'm having to switch them over to a different computer, so they'll be there in just a moment.
Thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
No problem. So this is in downtown Hayward. It's a new 60,000 square foot downtown urban library. It's really kind of wonderful. It has pretty much what I would say is all the parts and pieces that you want in a 21st century library. It's spaces for people, spaces for meeting. It's actually called a community learning center, and that was something that the city branded it as. It has sort of a very tight site, so it sort of fills out to the sidewalks. And we did that by freeing the library from the park where it used to be across the street. So the park can now become a great new park in the city. It has sort of a wonderful atrium in the middle that sort of is both for circulation, for light, for orientation, and for acoustics, and for it sort of helps with the mechanical systems, and also it's a place to have events. It has spaces for meeting and getting together. It has some really great spaces for teens and children. This is the children's area. A lot of details that went into it because we wanted this to be a really fun library. You can see looking across the atrium kind of how open and expansive it is. The library was quadrupled in size from the original, but they didn't get any more staff or staffing budget, or that's what they said at the beginning. So we had to figure out how you could make this library, you know, function with the same amount of staff, but that meant making it really open so that you can see across, and that locating things like the service desks on each floor are roughly in the same location so people can find their way around and find the materials. Teens are very close to our hearts. We love teens. I know they're difficult, but we love working with them, and we have a process that we use to work with teens. And in Hayward, we had a wonderful teen commission group, and this is the teen space that they really helped design. And we had some ideas about it, but they really kind of helped fill in some of the pieces for us. In addition, they're very good at sort of helping us with ideas about the whole library, because they don't just use the teen area, they use the whole library, and they have ideas about the future that they probably see that we don't. So we love bringing teens into the process. The children's area sort of covers children from, you know, the toddlers and the preschoolers all the way up to the tweens. This is a tween area separated from the atrium by a glass wall. And, you know, it really looks nice at night, and it really sort of has become a landmark in downtown Hayward. Another one close at hand. Oh, yes, Matt.
Can you tell us what the size of the population of that library?
Hayward is about 200,000. So, and it's a 60,000 square foot library, and it's they have one branch in Hayward. Los Gatos is a 30,000 square foot library, 2 stories. It replaced the library that used to be sort of in one corner of their little civic center. It was a very tight site. We had to fit it in. We wanted to fit into a sort of a civic center, and so the materials sort of try to match that. It's sort of a good sized library at 2 stories. We wanted it to be filled with natural light. So we have an atrium that runs down the center of the building, bringing in lots of natural light. It has, a lot of, again, openness and light, and the visibility is really important. And it sort of tucks into kind of a beautiful sort of corner of the park behind it that we wanted to take advantage of by looking in and out. The children's area is particularly fun to have some fun with, creating these little nurdle nooks, we call them, for the children to sleep in, and having, kind of lots of interesting and different kinds of seating. Fun decorative elements like the ceiling daughter, artist, and the teen area. Again, sort of the teen area is really quite wonderful because it sort of does, both social areas, study areas, eating areas. It's really quite good that way. Jane?
Sure. And microphone, all these things at once. So Half Moon Bay Library, we're really proud of this one. It won a national AIA Design Award, so we were super proud of that. But I think apart from the design, it's an interesting study in just what it takes to get a library built sometimes, and what we can do to partnering with our clients beyond just designing a building. This project started out as sort of a football and a political proxy war in the city of Half Moon Bay. There was a faction that was kind of against the library just for sort of anti-tax reasons. And so through a really robust community process, we were able to get everybody on board so that by the end of the project at the grand opening, the opponents were saying, taking credit for the project happening. So that was a really good success story there. In addition, I think the design is really responsive to what the community wanted. Initially, another firm had done a conceptual study that showed a library on the same site that was very glassy, 2 stories. It felt quite large in this kind of smaller scale residential neighborhood, and the community really was reacting strongly against that. So we made a few moves to really make it fit in this small coastal community. You see this part of the building in the foreground is really a 1-story shape that we pulled forward so that we can be approaching the site on the corner is a smaller scale structure. And then on the 2nd floor, we pulled this big reading room back so that when you're walking down the street, what you're seeing is a much smaller scale building, even though the building when you're inside it feels quite large and expansive. So just some additional views from the outside. It's like at the coast, which can be hard to maintain a building and make it stay nice over time. And so we specifically selected materials that would weather and weather well on this site. So we have wood that will turn to a lovely gray, copper panels surrounding the entry that have a nice patina on them. A lovely lobby filled with light, a little secret entrance to the buildings area is all of the normal one that adults can walk through. Really vibrant children's space on the 1st floor looking out into a garden. And this is sort of showing the back of the building where you really sense the full height of the building that you don't get from the front. A maker space. This is the 2nd floor reading room that looks out over the treetops and is really quite nice. Just some furniture and structural details. Here's a shot of the community room. That's that smaller scale little nook of the building on the 1st floor. It can be divided with an operable wall. It's used for homework, it's used for programming, it's used for community meetings, and it opens up onto a courtyard, so it has some indoor, outdoor access. More details, and it also looks nice and nice. Do you want to talk about Santa Clara?
Sure. This is the Santa Clara Mission Branch, which is a sort of mid-century modern library, and it had really sort of nice sort of form to it, but it had really not been updated in quite a long time. And so our job here was to basically sort of spruce it up, take advantage of kind of what we had on a very limited budget, and sort of find inside the building kind of, go back to kind of its original forms and clean them up and brighten them up and, with furniture and finishes and a few sort of minor interventions, we're able to kind of make a huge difference in the space. We often pair these with before and after pictures. And it's really quite a dramatic difference. But not all that much has changed, except kind of some of the surfaces and things like that. So we felt very proud to be able to get things. This seems to be advancing on its own.
Oh, really?
Maybe. We'll watch out.
Okay.
And it also has outdoor areas, which we feel are really important parts of any library, is that maximizing and being able to stretch out into the landscape with protected, areas for children and adults is really something very important. Another also looks good at night. And you want me to roll into Capitola?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. This is one of our newer branches in Capitola for the Santa Cruz County Library System. It is about a 12,000 square foot library serving that sort of another seaside town of Capitola. It was, again, trying to be a very energy conservative building, again, on a very limited budget, trying to make it feel like it fits in this kind of coastal context and sort of bringing in as much natural light as we can. And like in Half Moon Bay, using natural materials as much as we can that are going to weather without any kind of maintenance. You don't have to kind of maintain these. So all these materials will weather nicely. It has a kind of one large kind of reading room in the middle. Again, it's not a very big library, so we couldn't separate it off. But it has the one large reading room with some nooks and some areas where people can get away and find a quiet corner to read. It has kind of an art gallery, kind of a little mystery room in the middle. The children's area is on the opposite side of that. It has a fireplace. This is the only use of natural gas in the building. Basically we're trying to make our buildings all electric these days. But sometimes you want that little bit of gas on a cold winter day. It's really nice. And then the children's area, it was something we had a lot of fun with. Again, another intervention by my artist daughter on the ceiling. But finding kind of fun ways of kind of, bringing in the themes of the neighborhood into that. And again, another sort of extension of the outdoor area. There was a nice little park here to begin with. And so we sort of interfaced with it, and there's a playground just off to the right-hand side.
Can I just jump in? I want to apologize to the people who are remote. I'm struggling. It's a big file and I'm struggling to get it open on my computer. I'm still trying. I will send it out, Freddie, especially to you, so you'll be able to see it if I'm not able to get it open right now.
That would be great. Thank you, Mary Jo.
Okay, I think one of our last ones is Felton Library. This is a rural area in Santa Cruz County. I'm not sure the size of this one, Chris. Do you know?
It's about 11,000.
11,000. So this is a pretty relatively small building compared to some of the other ones we've looked at. This one, the county had actually hired a small local architect to design the building, but he wasn't an expert in library, so they hired us as the trusted advisors to really build out the whole inside of the building, so all of the library program spaces. And so we did anything on the inside was us, and the outside was this other firm. And so it's really one main room with a community meeting space attached to it. In addition to these little nooks, there's a small team space and staff spaces. The children's area brings in this custom wall covering, kind of bringing the trees into the building. And then you'll see up here some public art that was brought in. A local artist designed these butterflies. They're glass and they really flow through the space quite nicely. This is the community room, and you can see how it connects to the children's area and also the outdoor space there, the retractable wall. And it also has an interpretive garden on the side. And I think the last one we're showing is this building, which maybe you're all familiar with. But just to show that libraries and community centers have some crossover. And in this building, we actually brought in some of the things that sometimes we would put in a library, like small group meeting spaces that we know in the library here, you don't have a lot of those spaces. And so putting them in this building, in this case, allows people to kind of use both facilities. So I think this is, acts as kind of a community hub as well. I can just click it.
So yeah, so again, a lot of the crossover between the two, and then we are doing more and more library and community center as combined facilities. Just because there is so much of a sort of a congruence of interest between the two. And I think here at the Civic Center, if you did a library here, it would be good to think about what exists in this building and what can you do in the library. And I think, you know, Los Gatos was built without a meeting room because we had the Civic Center there and a senior center nearby that provided the other things. And so you can sometimes stretch your program space as much as you can by looking at other facilities around you. Because money's always an issue. So we wanted to talk a little bit about what is a 21st century library. It's sort of been talking about, we're getting deep into the 21st century now. So we've been talking about this for a while, but it never really, tires of me to talk about it. It's based upon, a bunch of sort of thinking and writing that's been done. And the Aspen Institute study, something that really sort of helped define kind of what's going on. And I love the book Palaces for the People, because it really sort of makes the case, the political case for people to say, well, what is valuable about libraries and how are they really working in our society? But it's really about making it into a center for learning, for innovation, and creativity. It's not anymore about being a book depository. It's really moved on, and its mission is to provide access to all of these things, whether it's technology, whether it's materials, whether it's programs. How do we sort of make these things accessible to everyone in our communities? And the roles of the librarians have changed. Instead of being the kind of the gatekeeper, librarians are sort of the facilitator, helping people figure out what they want to do and leading them along the way. And towards that end, there are more and more programs happening in libraries, and finding the space to run the programs, the budget to run the programs, and the staff, to do them is really important. But that is kind of one of the key things, and that's what people are looking for. So it's built around these three key assets of people, place, and services. And so I've sort of talked a little bit about some of these things, but building and creating something is what's really key here. And that you have many different age groups and types of users. You need to recognize what those are in your community and then respond to them with the sort of the spaces and the programs to respond to them. It's about place. It's the family room of your community. It's where people come and gather. And it has to be a place then that sort of speaks that language. You want to sort of be the place where people kind of identify that's the place to go. It's your anchor place. And it is sort of, people are moving around and have a lot of choices about where to go. You want them to choose the library as the place to go, and making it something that is sort of meets their needs, but is also flexible enough to adapt to whatever their needs will be in the future, because those are guaranteed to change. And sort of providing them with the tools and technology in that to do that is really important. And I think the first statement here about the fact that the library isn't so much the thing, it's the platform upon which the community puts its things that get done. So it is kind of the springboard from which the aspirations of the community can be realized, and sort of always sort of looking at that as being in service to the community to do that, and taking that central role in the community and sort of having the places in order to do that. So there are a bunch of elements that would go into the library, and we'll just sort of go through and show some pictures. And why don't I start with the entry lobby, and Jane?
Sure. Obviously, in a civic building, you want an entry lobby, something to greet people. You have a lovely one in this building. It really is kind of a hub where all of the other library spaces are kind of connecting to it. And it makes a statement as you walk in. It's also a place where people figure out where they're going in the building. These are some examples. I think we saw Half Moon Bay, Los Gatos, and Hayward, all bringing in natural light, really connecting to the community around them. The library also acts as a community living room. So we find with a lot of our projects in existing buildings, we're trying to find the right mix of books and lounge spaces. And so a lot of our clients are, reducing the size of the collection that's on the floor at any given time, or finding other ways to make it more mobile, moving it around on shelves with wheels, for example, so they can reconfigure. But we're doing a lot of introduction of soft seating and different types of seating for different ages and abilities, because people want to be able to sit at a table sometimes with their laptop, or they want to sit in a lounge, share and read a book. We're really introducing a lot of those different furniture types and seating types into the library. Also creating quiet reading areas. The library is not necessarily quiet anymore, and that's a shift for a lot of people. So instead of trying to make the whole space quiet, what we're doing a lot is creating a small zone that's maybe has a glass wall or something to separate it, where the smaller room is the quiet room. And if you really don't want all that hustle and bustle, then you can come in here and get away from it. So nice areas, you want to talk about those, Chris?
And this is Berkeley Central Library, the mystery room. So it used to be the reference room, but then there were no reference material. And so they said, what can we do with this room? And so, we kind of kept the historic character of it, but sort of, put in the mysteries in there and some comfortable seating, and it turned out to be really popular. Children are so wonderful. It's the most fun, one of the most fun parts of designing a library is kind of coming up with ideas. Like the secret entrance, at Half Moon Bay, coming in sort of from the lobby through under the stairway and then sneaking in. But sort of creating kind of fun and interesting places that will inspire kids, because we all have a library story from our childhood. I mean, so many people will sort of say, well, one of the most important memories I have of my childhood happens in a library. We want to be the place that creates those memories and to create the framework around which children will come and enjoy and have a fantastic time and discover and learn and really do wonderful things. And so in our Hayward Library, looking out onto to the big park across the way, and the Half Moon Bay, the Capitola Library, and to the garden. So if you think these little nooks are things that kids will remember a lot. So yeah, and then there are things like these things here. The Virgin Group makes those things. They're these kind of wonderful sort of early childhood learning devices. They're kind of wonderful in terms of the kind of things, because you don't have to read to enjoy a library. You can chew on the books if you want to, or slobber all over the manipulatives. But it is a memory and it's an experience that builds on from one to another. So that's great, and kids have technology to use as well in various ways. We try to look at that. And sometimes we have sort of technology-free children's areas that, depending upon kind of what it is that you're trying to achieve. And then sort of fun little bits of furniture like the willow pods that we use both indoors and outdoors. And the kids just love to kind of get into things, and so sort of the teens. And this is the Napa Library, kind of looking at kind of how can we, it was a very light refresh, but we sort of mimics the oak tree, silhouettes in creating these sort of forms in the building. You kind of, again, find a theme for each one. And that is kind of one of the themes that you might have noticed as we go through the buildings that we've done, is that no two look alike. Everyone is different. Everyone is based upon kind of the theme of what happens, in a specific location. Let me go on the team.
You can keep going.
Well, as I said earlier, teens are one of our special focus. This is our Berkeley YMCA. This is one of our first sort of serious teen groups. This group of teens, this is a small part of the group of teens, were paid like a job to work for the YMCA to design and construct this library. And they made all of the key decisions with the YMCA board, basically confirming all of their decisions all the way along the way. So we worked really closely with them over a period of about 2 or 3 years to realize a teen center that was a renovation of a building in the Berkeley Central Civic Center. This is the Hayward teen area. One of the sort of fun things about this is sort of the different types of seating that you see in here. Unique collections in here. And then we have fun with on the glass of this library. We had a wonderful signage consultant who and we sort of worked together to find creative things to do, because we had so many glass walls, we didn't just want people walking into them. You have to put something on them. So you can put sticky dots on them and people will do that. But this is the number pi, starts over on the far right-hand lower corner, taken out to about 50,000 digits. And when the teens figure that out, then they learn something, and the technology room across the way has, a digital binary code that spells, is it the Declaration of Independence, I think, something like that. You can figure that out, go for it. But, give them challenging problems. This is the teen area in Half Moon Bay. In Half Moon Bay. And it, again, has a makerspace on the other side directly connected to it. And has, again, sort of a multiple sort of types of seating that kind of the teens, they just don't sit on furniture the way adults do, and they won't use them the same way. So why not go and give them lots of different choices? And it is actually incredibly popular. And one of the things about, a place like Half Moon Bay, it didn't have any civic buildings at all before we got there. And now this is the place in town that kind of people can see and identify with as the landmark of their community. And libraries really have the power to do that. And that's really quite wonderful. And at Capitola, this is the teen room there. It has a little skylight above to bring in natural light, whiteboard on one end, comfortable seating on the other. Lots of different, teens are not monolithic in any way, any more than adults are. Lots of teens, some want quiet spaces, some want noisy spaces. Some want to study, some want to play, some want to chat. So we need to find places for all of them to do what they want to do. And then finally, the Hayward Library here, which has, again, a teen area that has kind of a social area kind of over there, the study area on the far side, sort of individual study, that's a group study area, an individual study area right here. And so it's kind of like finding sort of a large space, dividing it up so it does all these different things for them.
Hey, meeting spaces. Chris mentioned, a lot of our projects that's part of the library is a larger community meeting space. In this community, because you have this building right here with all of these large meeting spaces, that's a nice amenity. In Half Moon Bay, they didn't have any civic space like that, and so it's part of the library. In a lot of our libraries, we are creating those spaces. So this room is used, I think, as I mentioned before, for events. It's used for after-school homework. It's used for lunch programs. Really a multi-purpose space. And the kind of undulating ceiling started with the idea of how do we hide this really big overhead ceiling element that needs structure in it to support this wall that divides the space. And then from there, it evolved into this beautiful kind of feature ceiling. And all the white wall paneling that you see there is actually perforated acoustical paneling. So it's multi-purpose. Here's another community space in Felton. Again, pointing out you can retract all these glass walls so you have the indoor-outdoor connection as well as the connection to the overall library space. You might recognize this as your larger community meeting space in this building, again, connecting to the outdoors. And we're seeing a need, even before the pandemic, there was a strong desire from a lot of libraries for these smaller group study rooms. And then the pandemic happened and everyone wants Zoom rooms because now they're out in the library space trying to do a Zoom in the middle of the library. And so, we're finding in new projects or renovations, we're putting in these study rooms with hard walls, and also furniture products where it's literally a pod that you can bring in and plug in, and it has its own lights and HVAC and everything to create a little meeting room pod. So these are in high demand these days. And in this building, again, we created these smaller kind of small group meeting rooms along your main corridor, as well as kind of open areas where you might have a meeting. Specialty spaces, libraries are not just for books, as Chris mentioned, and so we're seeing a lot of maker spaces. And this is 3D printing and kind of high tech, but also people have sewing classes and they do knitting circles and that kind of a thing in these spaces. And any other interesting ones you've heard of lately, Chris?
Well, they're innovation spaces. And so, maker spaces is kind of, was the initial term that people use, but they really kind of, it's places for creation. That's sort of part of that what's a 21st century library? It's a space to create, whether it's, something you're making something, you're sewing something, or you're, writing something, or you're having a business and you're creating a business. It's kind of, how can we sort of harness the creativity of, people in the community and provide a place for them to actually do it.
And when some of these innovation spaces, we're seeing like green screens added in a little area where people can do video production content, all sorts of
That's the next one.
new trends. Oh, good one.
Well, this is another maker space.
Yeah.
This is just a sort of simple technology room. This is that one that spells out the Declaration of Independence.
Yes, in binary.
In binary code.
Cafes, historically, librarians haven't wanted food and drink mixing with the books. But we do find that a lot of clients want to have some kind of cafe or food service associated with the building. And Hayward, this is in an urban environment, so it makes sense. Oh, I think it's in Castro Valley. Is it Castro Valley?
It's Castro Valley.
Okay, we also did one in Hayward, where it makes sense to have that cafe right there on the street. Here's Missoula. This is the recording studio where you actually can record podcasts. This is not our project, it's like one that we visited, but podcasts or radio, any kind of recording people can do in this studio.
This is the VR studio, so it's where you put on the goggles and you kind of bump into things. So there's sort of got lines on the floor to keep you from getting hurt. That was at the Charles Library in Philadelphia. This is the Culinary Kitchen, or it's actually at the Philadelphia Library. It's the Culinary Literacy Center. So this is a full commercial kitchen setup with sort of a major sort of teaching space. And their mission here, is to bring food literacy to their community, which is a sort of an impoverished community. Philadelphia's got quite a large, needy population there. And so that is, something that they're really interested in promoting: good food, good eating, and how to do it.
We also saw when they the Missoula Library, and in this case, they really integrated it into a larger meeting space that's multi-purpose. When this isn't being used for a food teaching session, then they could just use it as a kind of a meeting space. You can see the mirror up above where people kind of in the audience can see what the instructor is doing. Indoor outdoor spaces. Again, this was something that was a trend, I think, especially in this area because we have such a wonderful climate. But the pandemic happened and outdoor space just became a really big deal for all of our library clients. These are photos of Hayward Library where they're connected to this park. So the park is right across the street. So they have this wonderful outdoor space directly adjacent. Capitola Library also has a park directly adjacent. At Half Moon Bay, we created this children's garden behind the library where they use it for programming, and then certainly post-pandemic now it's used all the time. And we're having a lot of clients right now ask for outdoor furniture. Some of them had outdoor spaces that just were not super well used before the pandemic, and now they're just super popular. And so they're trying to figure out how to get the right furniture out there so that people are actually comfortable using those spaces. Usually shade is an issue or light control, and then also having comfortable seating, different types of seating. Sometimes these spaces were sort of an afterthought before, but you have a little courtyard with some metal chairs or something like that. But if it's not super comfortable and inviting, it's not necessarily a space people want to hang out in. So we're really finding that there's a lot of great outdoor furniture on the market now to support public use of those spaces. People are bringing story time outside, for example. All this stuff really became a big deal in the pandemic, and it seems like everyone likes having story time outside, so maybe they'll just keep it there.
So one of the other sort of principles of the 21st century library are partnerships, and libraries do great things. I mean, I'm always in amazement about how libraries are able to take sort of the budget and the funding that they have and stretch it to provide a maximum amount of, usefulness to the community. But you can really leverage that sometimes with partnerships. It depends upon what you're interested in, what you have available in your community, as to what makes sense. And every place would be really different. I'll show you a few things here. Missoula was an example that had really had multiple partnerships in their library. This was one with a kind of the University of Montana was kind of a science discovery area. And they sort of partnered with them and built this space, and the university and their students run the programs out of this space. So the library gets something to bring people in and have an interesting activity, but you don't have to actually have your own staff doing most of the heavy lifting. This is one called, it's a kind of a family support area in the library. It is veteran support and family support for, sort of families in need. And it's right there off of the lobby. People can go in there. It's also sort of subtle, so you're not sort of in the middle of everything. So these things like that and literacy programs are another example of something that would be really important. But finding what in the community, you have as an opportunity and reaching out and trying to form those partnerships and really leverage what you do. And I think the final thing is public art. Public art is such a big part of it. Some cities and counties have mandates for how much needs to be spent on public art. Hayward had a 2% rule, which was quite a lot. And we ended up with a very large budget in Hayward that got us things like, site commissioned spaces like this glass art by a lovely artist named Tanaka. Which represents sort of we used to grow, harvest salt on the flats in Hayward on the bay. And so these are salt crystals made in glass. And that was her theme. And we had some wonderful submittals. It was really fun to have an art selection process to sort of find local artists that can sort of do really imaginative things. These are some other examples of art around the Hayward Library. It really is like a sort of a small museum, both commissioned art and bought art, art that's sort of purchased, as well as having the ability to. This is a quilt. This is kind of an amazing quilt by an artist. There's another one. But then there also is community art. You have a place that have community art put into, hung in there on sort of rotating exhibitions. Here's another example of it. We were gonna, so that's a lot of sort of stuff. And I think, the last thing we wanted to finish up on was, well, how do you do a library? Okay, you guys got one in front of you, I think, and, how do you get there? And I think the first thing is building your advocacy and gathering support. So this is one step, I think, in that process of getting everybody start thinking about it. But you gotta go out there and you gotta sort of find that support in the community and with the political leaders and the community leaders to get everybody behind you, because you're gonna need some money somewhere down the road unless you're really, really lucky. Then it goes into sort of a visioning and concept phase where you sort of have to sort of start testing ideas, working within kind of your parameters that you need to do and finding out kind of what you really want to, have in the library. Then you go to these various stages of design and then construction, and finally the opening. This is kind of how we sometimes plan the libraries. We program them. We create a building program, which is really a listing of all the activities that you want to have and what kind of activities they are and how they fit in, what kind of space do they need, what kind of stuff. And then we put them on a diagram like this that sort of gives people a better idea about kind of what it really is going to be like. And then we sort of get to the building plans. And then these are really much harder to read, but sometimes we'll do a building plan like this in a graphic form like that. We call them these dollhouse views. So there's like these three-dimensional kind of representations of the building plans with furniture in them, so people can get a kind of a good sense of it. And then on top of that, there are visual renderings and other things that help people communicate. But it's all about communication. If you want to build support, you have to communicate well. And that's kind of what's really key. So that was a lot of pictures, a lot of talking, and I hope we've given you something to think about, and we'd be very happy to have a chat and answer any questions that anybody might have. Yes.
I'm just wondering, you mentioned the Santa Clara County Library budget was very limited. What do you mean by that?
We had, I believe, we started out with about $1.5 million to renovate a library that was about 12,000 square feet. So that's spreading the money fairly thin, depending, because we had, there were a number of serious sort of maintenance issues that needed to be addressed in the building.
Did you go beyond that budget?
We did eventually by, sort of them wanting more things and trying to kind of fit it in. So they had more money and so they were able to do it. So, yeah, but I think we ended up being about 1.8 million, I believe, by the time we were finished with that, but it was things that they wanted. I mean, construction prices are really high these days. And so it's one of those things that nobody really believes us when we tell you what it's going to cost to build it. They say, no, you are insane. You don't know what you're doing, but we do know what we're doing. We have professional cost estimators and we have a record of tracking, what things cost and trying to anticipate, because inflation, you've probably all felt it and seen it, but in the last few years, inflation in the general market has been high, but in the construction market, it's been very, very volatile. And so it's really hard to stay on top of it. But I think, the key thing is, if you know what your budget has to be, then you work really hard with your, design consultants and the professionals to make sure, that you're really being realistic about everything at every step of the way, even if you don't quite believe that it's going to cost that much, go with it, because in the end, you'll be happy that you haven't sort of been over optimistic about what you're going to get for your dollars is a trap in a way. It'll lead to disappointment, and being conservative about that will leave you getting to the end of the project and you haven't gone over budget, and you might even have money to do something else that you wish that you wanted to do.
I have a question about the amount of glass in all these buildings. Is there a problem with heating a building with?
There is always a problem with solar gain coming into buildings and heating them up, but glass is being made these days technologically with amazing kind of sort of filter systems built into the glass. And so this building here, just looking out there, that looks like a nice clear piece of glass, but that glass is performing about 10 times better than one of those tinted glasses that you would have gotten 20 years ago. And you can still get the natural light to come in. So technology is really improved. It is done through a lot of computer modeling that has all these sort of parameters kind of being able to calculate out what they are. And so our goal in our buildings is to build them for zero net energy, which means that we put some solar panels on the building, or wind power, I suppose, but solar is kind of the normal thing we get here. And that generate enough power to power all the needs of the building over the course of a year. And we can do that by having really energy conservative buildings. It has to do with the glass and having the right amount of glass in the right direction. If it faces, south or west, you need to shade it so that at the worst time of the day, the sun isn't directly hitting on it. That helps. And then having building, HVAC systems that are very conservative in terms of how they use energy. But our Hayward Library and our Half Moon Bay Library and our Castro Valley Library are all net zero energy. So they're producing more power than they're consuming. And there's no reason that, a library in this place, couldn't do the same. And that should be your goal. It actually probably is the state's goal right now. It's going to be a state mandate very soon.
In the interest of time, I'm gonna stop right there. Thank you so much for coming. But I should do this just to make sure everybody can hear. Thank you so much for coming for the presentation. Up next, we're gonna take a 5-minute break just as we transition over the presentation. So I would ask you to, if you could, take a moment to introduce yourself to somebody that you haven't met before, and we'll come back in about 5 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
So then I don't get to the creative research.
Some new building took the place of the old building. Place of the old building. Large lot size. Yeah. It wasn't more big enough. It was next to a middle school, and so we sort of.
We're gonna.
Okay. So I went to 2 stories. Yeah. That's one of the challenges. Orchard, if you can't encroach on. Yeah. We're talking about, hey, what if we wrote? In the back, all that kind of stuff. So I'm just kind of curious as to where you better get that experience with it. Challenges. Clear. It's very small.
Oh, I was watching online.
So I have.
Yeah, I was watching online.
You like Jennifer?
Now, the city of Campbell, organization is very flexible. It's no different.
And all the initials behind your name.
They actually.
Or I don't know, something.
Any question?
Yeah.
Bless, yeah. Still groggy after all. It's getting, you know, I'm off oxytocin.
Just a little bit. Give it time.
Having fun now. Yeah, we met. How's your wife doing? I think we have stuff. I don't know. I'm glad you got to meet you guys. I'll bring it up for you. You guys, and all right, beautiful work. Mary Jo, you would like Rose to stand up here though, right? Present, okay. Oh,
Yeah. I took it out.
That's a beautiful day.
Can we get started again, everyone?
Everybody, if we could have your attention, we're gonna move forward with the agenda.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jennifer Weeks, and I'm the county librarian from Santa Clara County Library District. And really, I'm gonna do a little preamble in terms of, we obviously love working in partnership with you. Libraries from Illinois. So we have a library being renovated fully in Campbell right now. We have libraries right here, so it's one of the oldest in the district. So it's always lovely to bring together. And please know that we are in partnership to make sure that the spaces that we have are evolving and are meeting your needs. So in order to do that, we continue to talk to others and to experiment with new things. And that is part of our strategic plan. That I'm sure many of you have seen, that really is about belonging, connecting, and discovering at the library for all of you. So today I'm here with Rose Vega, who is the community librarian. She's going to do a CP of some plans that we're looking at how we can again expand the library and evolve it for the community. Rose?
Mary Jo, I don't think the microphone is working very well. We can't hear.
I'll wait till
Could Rose come closer to the podium, because I don't think that microphone's working.
Can you hear me now, Freddie?
Better.
Better? Okay, I'll stay here.
Thank you.
Okay, so, would you mind scrolling for me?
Yeah, okay, bear with me, I'm scrolling on two computers.
Okay.
I still need to share with, everybody else here.
It's a PDF, so.
Yeah. Go ahead and get started, I'll get it for you.
Okay, so I wanted to provide a little background. Jennifer briefly touched on it. We were contacted by a generous donor from the community who wanted to donate $500,000 to the library. And during that time, Jennifer worked with the staff and with our team, and we had a great idea to put a patio to the library. And just as the previous presenter mentioned, outdoor spaces are very valuable to communities. I'll show some more pictures about where the patio will be, but generally it will be in the front of the library, where right now there's a lot of ivy and really some unused space that has a lot of potential. And thanks to Lolly, Lolly funded a feasibility study to look at what we can do with the 500,000 and maybe some more donations to make this, this dream a reality. And so with further discussions with Lolly, they also have indicated initial financial support. Okay. So this first drawing is from the architectural company SSA. You'll see it's about 6,100 square feet. And the idea was for the patio to go out to the sidewalk. So this is just a rendering of the anticipated patio. It's not exact. We understand there are a lot of moving pieces to this. And so this is what the company, architectural company came back with. And so this is the first layout. And then the next slide has the next layout. And the overall idea, what we've talked to the company about, is having a flexible space where we can do programming and have people the opportunity to just go out there and read and enjoy the space. So this furniture is movable furniture and allows us to do that and achieve that goal. And looking at the vision for the patio, we wanted to have something for programming for all ages, incorporate the orchard and other location specific pieces. We want to partner with other organizations and most importantly align with our new strategic plan, which many of you have already seen. And if you haven't, I'd be happy to share it with you offline.
It is attached, it's in the packet.
Okay, wonderful.
The summary.
Okay, and then there's a whole packet on our website and a whole thing on our website too with more details. And this is part of the strategic plan. One of the priorities we have is we innovate. And the goal attached to this priority is to design and implement flexible spaces that encourage library visits and elevate patron experiences. And this is exactly what this patio does. You know, as many of you know, there was a needs assessment done in 2018. And one of the biggest things that came out of that is an increase for program space. And with this increase in square footage, we're able to achieve that. We're able to provide the space for the community. The next part of our strategic plan that this touches on is we welcome, and the goal is to support local community needs with reflective services throughout the library district. And kind of just to touch on, you know, we've done a little bit of research on patios across the country, across the world. There are a lot of opportunities to do so many things with this patio. So some examples are musical gardens, play spaces, meeting spaces connected to the outside, just plain old seating and gathering areas. And as you recall the previous presentation, outdoor story time, we did those thanks to partnership with the History Museum. We were able to use their patio, but we love our own patio, so we didn't be able to provide that. They were very popular and people loved having our story time. They missed it so much when we couldn't have it indoors. And looking more locally, local benefits, you know, partnering with the History Museum, we've already met with Dr. Elizabeth Ward and Jane, and they're very, very excited to work with us to be able to partner on, you know, programs for mostly younger kids, but just for the whole community, and increasing opportunities for STEAM programming and increasing attendance is a big thing, which will equal more funding for us down the line, and more opportunity for inclusive programs. And just a specific example, the links have examples from other libraries. Sorry, the Master Gardeners did a demonstration garden that was very successful. So there's more details on that in the link. You'll see coming up. Jennifer had touched that other libraries have some outdoor spaces that have already been implemented. This is Cupertino. You'll see that their outdoor space connects to their community room, and it has a attic door which opens up, which is what we're looking at adding if we have this project approved. There's another picture of Cupertino. Oh, okay, I'm looking at the wrong screen. Okay, and then yes, the next one is Gilroy. Gilroy has another great outdoor space. You'll see the furniture and the flexibility there. There's another picture of Gilroy. Another picture of Gilroy there. And thank you, Mary Jo. Yeah. So you'll see how they have you know, lounge chairs, they have chairs to sit on, and there's some children's areas incorporated in there as well. Okay, and kind of the more nitty-gritty details, and I just want to note this is still a draft. Nothing is set in stone, but you know, after meeting with you know, Molly and getting their initial support for funding along with the donor, we are estimating that phase 1 is what we would have enough funding for to start the project. And you'll see it goes out from the orchard room, and that's the picture that I initially showed, and that was what the architectural firm gave us. After, you know, working more with the community, getting more support, the History Museum has allowed us to work with them, and we would be incorporating some apricot trees inside the patio. It would be supporting each other and making sure that it's an educational component. So I know there's a lot of talk about the apricot trees, but we wouldn't be removing. It would be carefully moving trees or incorporating them as part of the patio. And this is phase two. And why we have phase two is very important. If you can go back, I'm sorry, those. So why we have phase two is to also allow accessibility from the children's room. So you'll see the orchard room ends here, the children's room is right here. And adding phase two would allow people, even if there's a program in the orchard room, people could still go into the patio. They can still, you know, read, they can still use the space, they can still work without interrupting the orchard room. So it adds accessibility there. Pricing, next slide.
This one?
The last, yes, that one. So after working with the architectural company and Jennifer's been working closely with our contractor, the cost comes out to be about $200 per square foot. So the phase one would cost 1.28 million, and phase two would cost about 1.5 million. And you'll see the benefits of having both, either one. You know, multiple access points is the big key to having phase two, but phase one also still increases our program space and provides a great opportunity. So I think that's all I have. I just wanted to end a wonderful quote I found from Library Journal. Outdoor spaces allow for libraries and their partners to invest in the health and wellness of communities, connect residents to library resources, and enhance literacy. Great outdoor spaces provide opportunities for libraries to showcase their capacity, to strengthen communities, and be true placemakers inside and out. So that's all I have, but I'm open to any questions.
Thank you, Liz, for almost explanation. I have a question regarding the half of the year, it's bright sun and hot. Is there shade? Is there going to be a way of?
Yeah, that's
where this patio area?
Yeah, that will be incorporated into the design.
A cover.
We don't know the details, but shade is definitely something we talked to the architectural firm about.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
So why two phases?
Funding wise, so the first phase, with Lolly's anticipated support and with the donors, 500,000 is something we know we could do for sure right now. Phase two is what we would like to also add on with funding.
Funding is the only
Yes.
issue on that. And then my second question is more of a nitty gritty, but the destruction and the movement of the fountain, have you researched, has Lolly, or have you researched what that would take and the issues surrounding that?
We haven't, but we're willing to work with whoever, you know, we need to make sure. We don't want to destroy anything. We don't want to, you know, cause any interruption. So we'll work with whatever needs to be done.
I'm just thinking not the physical thing, but the fact that it was dedicated at some point as a monument to somebody. That's all.
Yeah, well, we'll take that into consideration. Thank you.
I assume you've worried about sound. Because you're right on San Antonio.
Yes.
Is there any sound protection or is it
Yes.
necessary?
Well, we met with the architect. She came out to do a site visit with Jennifer and I. She did talk about the wall that would be closest to the street would be a soundproof wall. But then the other walls facing the orchard, it was very important to, especially Dr. Elizabeth Ward, to have clear walls facing to the orchard so that we could, you know, the public can enjoy the, but the architect did bring that up. Yes, so it's definitely taken into consideration. We don't know the details. I mean, it's all just really preliminary plans. Yeah, sure.
Is this your top priority?
For the library, I think this is the top priority for right now, since we have the donation right now, and we have Lolly's funding support. You know, why not do it now? I mean, the thing I've heard, somebody wise once said it's a reachable goal, so why not, you know, go for it? So yeah.
Because I don't think funding is a problem at all for this project, as long as this is the most important project to do.
Well, if it's looking at this and some people so, you know, I would love a new library, but, you know, that's it. For reachable goal, this is our priority, yes.
I have just one question. What about, is there any concern with an open patio next to the children's area? Because one of the things we're looking at is safety of the children's area.
Yes, it's not a concern in the sense of once we have kind of, more procedures in place, I think everything, you know, can be done. It's done at other libraries, and I think it's just carefully they give out the procedures, and it's a public space, and, definitely be considered. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Yeah. And so, now we were hoping to have something from law, NCLA.
Thank you. Well, I didn't submit a presentation. My name is Lisa Schmidt. I've been on the NCLA board for 3 years, and this year I became chair of the board. So probably of all the people in the room, I have the least historical knowledge of NCLA because I've not participated in it before I came on the board. I want to give Suzanne incredible kudos for helping us get it to the point it is now, which is financially very well done, well documented. Thank you, Suzanne, so much for helping us out. And I think we're in a great position right now. We have a large bank account. It's not encumbered by anything. And we want to work with the other parties here to figure out how to get you to your goals, what the library needs and what we can achieve. And so next Monday is our NCLA meeting. Normally we only have 2 a year, but we're going to have them more frequently as we set up a process to work with the other groups and determine how to use these funds. So at the next NCLA meeting, I've asked several people here come and present their ideas and their feelings after this strategy meeting. We'll also have a report from our council who will have looked at the charter for the NCLA and give some opinions on how the money can be used, constraints that we need to work under and things like that. And then going forward, I hope that we can work and figure out how to utilize this money for the best for the library. Me personally, I have no preconceived notions. I just want to make it something that is really good for the community and the library. So there you go. Any questions?
Quick one about the NCLA. You said so a bank account that's unencumbered. I don't know the history either. And so is that accurate that the law formed NCLA? What did it say are we supposed to do?
I will start and Suzanne will correct me when I get it wrong. That's how I suggest doing it. So, excuse me, everybody. The Joint Powers Association was formed back in the 80s. Is that correct? 1985. And this was at a time when the Santa Clara Library organization did not have very good funding. They were suffering. And the people of Los Altos and Los Altos Hills came together and imposed a tax on our community so we could pay for more support at the library. We wanted more hours. And so for a long time, while the Santa Clara Library group got themselves more and more together, we provided that funding for people. But now, you know, being the second, one of the best libraries in the entire nation, very well funded and run, we can continue to collect that money, but it isn't necessary for the library anymore. So now the JPA runs for a few more years, and it's time to disperse this money back out and use it for the library. So that's why it's there. And there are some encumbrances on how it can be used from the JPA charter, and we have to follow those, but otherwise.
The encumbrances on how they can be used is mainly from parcel tax. I guess where that's, but not the JPA charter. The JPA charter is very broad. It allows us to do anything with regard to the library. Can you hear?
Yeah.
The screen is about to shut down.
Oh,
yeah, sorry. And the only funds we are collecting in NCLA right now are from the parcel tax. And the parcel tax has it's restricted as to what the uses can be for that.
And that's one of the opinions we received on Monday is the index opinion of not to be.
whatever restrictions there, they're not rigid. It sounds like there's
There,
to be exactly.
in one phrase, it's not rigid.
Yeah.
That's what they're working on right now.
Okay, thank you so much.
Oh, yes.
So I don't want to start a discussion about a new library, but I do want to ask this one. You know, because the historical thing, you know, I think it would be nice if we had a slide that talks about the history of studies that have been done for a new library. That start in 2008. You know, it started at when the Friends wanted to expand the library, and then what was her name? I can't remember.
I actually did this,
And then we did a study. We need a 40,000 square foot library. Every time we've done it. My question is this on NCLA: if for some strange reason suddenly they say maybe we should build a new library, what's the process? Who's the where does that start? Because we're a JPA for the voters. Who does that for the voters? Just a question.
The NCLA would not put it for the voters, would be my opinion. We have a set of money, and the JPA was founded with a certain charter. And we will adhere to that charter on how we pray to spend the money for the library, but we would not spearhead. Well, then the question would be, since we're a JPA, and we're a JPA, you know, we have 2 libraries in Los Altos, then the Hills is part of this. How does something like that get started? Does one city take the lead? Do they both take the lead? Who takes the lead? I'm the person in the room who worked on the original,
Started it all.
So I think I can tell you what happened in 1989 when we expanded the library the first time. NCLA already existed because there was a parcel tax, and the parcel tax needed to be renewed. The Library Commission went to the city and said, we want to double the size of the library. Can it be done? And the library said, well, can you pay for it? And we said, well, if we could pay for it, can it be done? And then we went to the voters and said, you know, we want to renew the library, the parcel tax. We renewed it for twice the amount it had been before. It was $24. We made it $52. Half the money went to the expansion and half the money subsidized operations in the library. NCLA sold bonds, and it was financed by bonds and then paid back over 20 years, I believe, by the parcel tax. So it was a combination of NCLA as the joint administrative body and the city working together to fund the expansion. And then a lot of residents went out and made sure it passed.
Well, the only reason I start, so you showed this great presentation of all these great libraries. And started to be thinking again, because we have the oldest library in the system. And another chart would be nice to have if we could get it, is Clare County Library System. When they were started, when they were rebuilt, new ones, when they were added on to, and you know, you could just have a chart going across where we're stuck in the past. I want a vision. I want vision.
So thank you so much. So one of our attachments was something that was created by the Library Commission in 2021, and it's up on our screen. I'm gonna get out of the way of the audience.
Okay, I will try to.
And so she's gonna try, it's in the packet, and this is something that Nelvin G, one of our commissioners, put together. It was in 2021. And so there is some information there with respect to comparisons. And so I would love to get more historical data. We can certainly attach it to the record so that's accessible to everybody here. And I was gonna say this for closing arguments, but we are the Library Commission. We take our direction from the City Council. And so my plan was after today to put this all together, to take it to the council and to get some direction, to ensure that we have the City Council's direction in terms of any steps that they would like
I'm trying to.
us to take. Talking slowly so Mary Jo can get it up. There you go. Anyway, it's part of the packet. It's a grid. It has red and green. There we go. For people who are remote. So yeah, so it's somewhat dated, but it is there.
Thing I always remember too is the gate count. So, and the statistic I recall, and I think it's still true, but of all the people that go to the library, only 40% of them do a transaction. So 60% of them are going in for other reasons.
Well, I know that I'm a big library user and I go in, I'll spend 45 hours. I go to Cupertino because that gives me time and I sit there and I study or work.
But this particular library, is 60% of the people don't do a transaction. Now, some of them are parents with their kids doing transactions possibly, but there's still a lot of others that are in there hanging out. So, okay, I'm just asking questions.
So again, so we'll put as much as we can into the package, but now we just long.
I'm just waiting for my slides to come up. So I am Cindy Hill, and I'm the current president of the Los Altos Library Endowment. And we have, one of the nice things that's happened over the last few years is that Lolly has incorporated other members. So we have people from the Friends who come to our meetings, and we also have 2 current library commissioners who are on the Lolly board. One of them is Nelvin, and the other one is Freddie. And you're going to see an ad in the town crier very soon because we are looking for additional board members. So if you or anyone that you know is interested, please let us know. So I gave you a hot link to our new website. So the next slide, please. One of the very interesting things that when I was listening to the Nolan Tian presentation, they talked about the 21st century vision, and they used the same words that we had, or we used their words. But I was very excited because we just updated our vision and our mission statements last year. We took a whole look of where Lolly is and where we wanted to go. And one of the other things that has happened is that we changed it to enrich the community, not to enrich the Los Altos or Los Altos Hills community, but the community, because of the pandemic, we had the opportunity to reach out virtually to the entire Santa Clara County Library District, which was a new reach for us. All right. And the really wonderful thing is that Lolly was founded by the Friends of the Library because of a major donor and donation. And so one of the things that, for the years that I've been on the Lolly board, one of the things that I've observed is that this interconnection between all of these interested parties and then how we work together and how we work towards transparency and cooperation. And I don't want to go to the next slide yet. So I wanted to, because I wanted to give you the money. Yeah, because it's all where's the money? So we have a few years ago, because of the NCLA Library Redevelopment Task Force, of which Suzanne and I were the chairs of that, Lolly decided to split our budget into two parts. One is our operating budget, which currently has 4.4 million in it, and the building fund, which is at 2.1 million. We just had a meeting with our Cerity organization, which manages our funds. So these numbers are very accurate. Even given all of the ups and downs that the stock market has had in all of the years, we're doing really well. We very rarely lose money. We tend to keep making it. The building fund is in a little bit more conservative funding area, but we're talking about increasing it to a little bit higher risk because we don't see us being able to use that money for quite a few years. However, we could take money out of the operations budget and use it for buildings, like the patio project most likely would be funded through the operations. Next slide. Well, let me go back to that one. Are there any questions about the money? Yes.
Have you ever spent any money out of the building fund?
No, because it's very specific to what it can be used for. So at this point, none of those have come up.
Could you describe how it could be used?
Sure, if the city decided, if everybody agreed that the library was to be either redeveloped or expanded or rebuilt, and the city committed to that and put a shovel in the ground, then we would turn the money over to the city. Yes.
Given the situation on that, I think you would go high risk for that building fund, because you could probably leave it there for 30 years.
On to the next slide, please. I wanted to give you some examples of how the money has been spent, because we don't go out and do the projects. We actually either have the library do it or the library commission. And that's one of the great things is that over here on the unique opportunities, you'll see that I've highlighted the ones that the library commission has actually, they've done the research, they came up with the idea, they did the research, they got all the background information, the cost information. They came to Lolly and presented this, and we agreed that it made perfect sense with the support of the library, that this is how we should spend the money in order to get these ideas to go forward. I want to say that the Woodlawn Library Open Access is fantastic. I go there when it's open. My husband goes there. We don't go at the same time, but we need to have our own space at times. But it's a great opportunity for the Woodland Library, and it's being used as a pilot for the whole county. So that's the other great thing about our library and the Lolly Fund is that we frequently pilot things. Go Biblio was a pilot, and we paid for the very first one, and now there are 5 or 7. Yeah. And then the town crier and monthly ads, the idea came out of the library commission because they wanted to advance and demonstrate all the amazing services and resources that the library had. They figured the town crier is the best way to do it. They are creating the ads in conjunction with Rose, and the library, the Lolly is paying for them. We had students, high school students, come to us with a 3D printer idea, a project idea. So we funded those, and that project is taken off in a more expansive way with now moving down to the children's library. And then we also provided funding for the redevelopment task force initiatives when that was going. These are some of the annual expenses that we have. They're always reviewed. We don't automatically fund them. We do ask for metrics and narratives and why it's going to be used and how it's going to be used. It must be allergy season, Rose. I can barely talk too. And the next one. These are some of the areas that we have under consideration right now. This is where the conflict is, and the opportunities are huge, but they're all seeming to converge at the same time. And so we're kind of in a holding pattern to figure out what we can do. As you heard from Rose, the main library patio project is something that's currently under discussion. We're going to be speaking with the donor this afternoon, just to give his family an update on where it is. It's not a for sure thing that the money will come to us because it's taking us a long time. We don't want to see that money disappear, but we also need to do this in conjunction with a lot of other projects. Again, with the library commission, the Woodland Library Outdoor Study Space is a project that they brought forward to us, and would like to have funding if it's decided to go forward with that. Main library development and expansion. I'm not ready to walk away from that. Suzanne and I, we and our team put together so many hours and so many ideas, and so much information was put in there. And Lolly funded a study to go out and talk to potential donors, and these were high dollar donors. So we identified 100 people, and our consultant interviewed about 30 to 40 of them. There's money there, but it's who's going to go first. And then other initiatives. So I wanted to let you, so think about Lolly as being a funding source. And I think the last slide is a thank you slide. Yes. So any questions? All right, back to you. Thank you, Julie.
And finally, last but not least, is the Friends.
I have the slides, I'm sorry.
I had to kind of laugh when the description of my talk is supposed to be, what is your strategic plan for 2023? Because to the best of my knowledge, the Friends of the Library have never had a strategic plan and have never discussed a strategic plan. We are just a group of individuals who love books and we love the library. And our purpose, I think if you ask any friend, they would say that our major purpose is to support the library and to find homes for books that other people don't want. It's really our total motivation. Interestingly, we do very well at finding homes for other books, and we actually have, I think our income right now is about somewhere between $200,000 and $225,000 a year. We have a lot of aspirations for the library, but we really do not try to tell the library what to do. Our main goal is to say to the library, what do you want? We'll pay for it. And if anything, they don't ask us for enough. You're there, Rose? For the past, actually, almost as long as I have been in the Friends, the library has never spent as much money as we make. And we are perfectly happy to spend it down. When we expanded the library in 1989, we took all our extra money and put it into that building. It was $100,000 at the time. At the moment, we have about $1 million, and we would be absolutely delighted to spend it on whatever projects need the funding. What we like is for the library to come to us and say, here's our list, here's what we want to do, and we'll say, great, here's how much we have, do it. So that's the best I can tell you about the Friends. We have actually, since COVID, by the way, we've been earning, we started scanning books and we have increased our income about $50,000 a year since COVID started. So just do it. Just do it. If we got it, we'll pay for it.
Thank you, Lily. Any questions?
I should say that we have passed a resolution, and if there is a project, we are willing to commit our $1 million to that project.
Okay.
I don't have a question, but I do have a comment. I don't know if you remember from the Nolan Camp, they talked about the pods that people, the Friends are buying some for us. So thank you, Friends, for doing that. It's about over $100,000 project. So you'll probably see them in the library in late summer or fall. Thank you.
Do you want to talk about the motion?
About the motion, you wrote it. This is Janet, our president to be.
Vice President currently. So I had already talked about this to Lolly, but at our last board meeting, Friends passed a unanimous motion to commit our funds to a redevelopment expansion of the library under certain conditions. Most of which has to do with us working in concert with one another so that we all are on the same page. But I wanted to make sure that everyone knows that we are committed to whatever we can do to help the library expansion, redevelopment, rebuilding, whatever the vision for it might be, move forward. That's it. Any questions?
Yeah, so I'm just gonna expand on that a little bit and with regard to expanding the library, we have to decide what we want. This is the whole library community here. We have to decide what we want. This is another opportunity to really do something big or we can do a lot of small things. But we're never gonna get there. So in 2004, Virginia Whipple, you have Dorothy Whipple.
I'm sorry, that I do that all the time
Okay.
for Virginia.
Anyway, so Virginia, bequeathed $2.8 million to improve the Los Altos Library. The Friends hired an architect, and in 2006, we got a series of drawings of how to do that, use the Whipple money, and they came up with several scenarios of expanding the library. This is in 2006. It was felt that we needed to, before we do that, we needed to have a library needs assessment. So we stopped. We did a library needs assessment at the cost of $40,000 at that time, and we got a very thorough library needs assessment. I have a copy here. It's 2008, and it said we needed almost 12,000 additional square feet to meet the needs of our community at that time. So then we were stopped again. The city said, wait, we want a new library, we want a new community center, we want to do a master plan first. So city council for 2 years had several sessions. I attended several of them in Lacey, in the multi-purpose room, in the community, the Old Hillview Community Center, the social room. We worked hard. We had little squares we went around. We put the ballpark here. We put the soccer field here. We put the orchard here. We put the police station here. Lots of different versions. It died. That went nowhere. So that was 2010, 12 master plan effort. It went nowhere. We new commission, new council. They decided. So in 2013 discussions by residents of doing something to enlarge the library, expanded out in whatever way. There were different discussions of which ways, but get some expansion to the library, and it was driven by residents. In 2014, the Library Commission assigned an exploratory committee to look into a new library. After hearing from several of these residents in 2015, our new library, David Smith formed with a group of residents as an outgrowth of the Library Committee. He worked hard. 2018, NCLA takes over. NCLA decides we're going to do this. We're going to get our new library. We're going to make this happen. So we have a library redevelopment task force. I don't remember how many people. Cindy and I interviewed all these residents. We had 14 people or something on this task force. We ended up meeting so often. We were meeting weekly. This went on for 2 years. I have a huge stack. I was trying to look through it this morning of documents from that time of research of other libraries. We hired a consultant. We did another needs assessment. An updated needs assessment. It showed we needed 12,000 square feet. We did an engineering study for strata. Look at remodel, look at building new, look at different costs. We did 2 community surveys, one through Gazi and one through like FM3 or another organization, big major, $32,000 each, opinion surveys, finding out what the community wanted. We did in-person interviews with the 100 key influencers in this community. We did lots and lots of different things, trying to get this library. It was going to be on the ballot November 2020. March 2020, we had our shutdown. Our shutdown shut down our new library project. We weren't sure if we were going into a recession. We didn't know what was happening. We stopped it. We've got an opportunity now. And why we have an opportunity now to do something is because of MCLA. Through various different reasons, MCLA has $7 million. Part of it is because the library was closed during the pandemic, and yet we were collecting a parcel tax. Our partial tax is meant to pay for the extra hours the library is open, for the staffing, for those extra hours. We had library closed, we had ERAF credits, so we had lots of different things all of a sudden falling in our lap, and we ended up with $7 million. So the next thing that triggered NCLA money cannot be used for capital expansion because it's a partial tax money and it has limited, has restrictions. But Friends moved into the library, took over part of the library space, took it away from patrons. That triggered one line in the parcel tax which said that the funds could be used for general purposes to uphold library services. We had removed some of those library services by removing some of the books, some of the quiet area, some of the meeting room area. So our lawyers looked at it and said yes. So suddenly we have $7 million right now we can use to expand the library. So we said, if we can get Friends, if we can get Lolly, if we can get all the money that we have in the community, and at that time, this is last July, and so in October, I spoke with Gabe, who's left the room now, unfortunately. And at that time, he said he thought it was an excellent use of NCLA money, and that he thought the city could put in some money, and he felt Los Altos Hills could put in some money too. The county could put in some money for the design phase. There's donors, Jimmy's talking about who we could probably, you know, if we really are behind, we have to decide what do we want? What is the future? What do we want? If we had built out this library in 2006, we would all be enjoying for the last, 18 years? A bigger library, a new library, with all kinds of extra space. We can do so much more with more space in our library. So we have to decide when we want to make this happen. We can keep kicking it down the road and using our funds elsewise, but one day it's only until we decide what we want to do that we'll ever have this an expanded library.
Thank you. I'd love to include that in our packet. And I had a question too, because I think you told me a really great number, and that is how much money do we generate from the book sales in the entrance?
So our ongoing book sale, we generate from that. Sorry, I'm still used to 60,000 or more, because we're getting up to like 1,300 a week. It's really phenomenal. Amazing, yeah.
So, I like what you said, on money, when you add it all up, I think we could probably get to 15 million when it's all said and done, I think. But
Yeah, or more.
the other thought I had though was, I think you should do a plan that says, there's a plan A, plan B. Plan B is we spend $15 million to do whatever we can. Plan A is we figure out how at least to get the community to vote on whether they would be willing to go for a new library. Because if they did that, it solves a lot of problems right off the bat, because the bones of this building, we know, the old library, it's not workable in some cases. But the idea being, I wouldn't give up on just saying, can we go out and do both, either do one or the other. So in other words, don't give up on expanding the library, but see if maybe we can get a new library. And if we put the data together of where we are relative to the system, the fact is there are programs that come to the other libraries that we're not even eligible for because we don't have space for it. So the residents of Los Altos Hills are missing out on something. They have to go to other libraries. What it is, we've never gone to the point of saying, let's just ask. Because one thing I know working on the things back in 1988, 92, libraries are supported by Los Altos people. Now, we don't have rich people wanting to give us money. We figured that out. But the people of Los Altos will support a library. I don't know. I think it'd be worth giving it one shot, but have this other thing in reserve and just go for it as soon as if they say no. If they say yes, we're in a different mode. And then, if we have to tear down the library, we need money to put a library someplace else. I don't know if the county does that too. But the library would have to be moved for a couple of years to build a new library. But anyway, I'm just saying, I wouldn't give up on that. And the question would be, just put that down as, we'll do plan A, plan B. Either way, we're gonna get something better. Just see what it is. That's my suggestion.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from the friends? Okay. So I think in the interest of time, it's 4:15. We have attached presentations from the subcommittees of the library. The Woodland Having a Project is there, and Freddie has worked very hard on that, and so I would refer you to that document. We have, the Services Subcommittee had actually presented information to NCLA requesting further guidance on the use of the money. So you'll see that in the packet. We have our Awareness Committee information and how they've worked to raise the awareness. And then finally, we do have the report from 2021 that now been authored with respect to comparing our library to other libraries. So I would refer you to that information. It is 4:16. And so I didn't know if there are any other comments or questions. I do have a space for closing remarks, and what I wanted to share with every one of you is, first of all, thank you. I think we all love libraries, and it's a wonderful thing. I mean, there's no place that I'd rather be, and I really know that so many of you work so hard to support our library. You've given many, many hours of your time and your just your life to the commitment here. So I personally want to thank you on behalf of the library and its patrons, because I think too many of you go unnoticed. Yeah. I also want to say that the next step for us as the commission is to get the guidance from the council. And so we'll just be putting this together, putting it before the council, or just sending the information with the goal of getting guidance from the council on next steps for us. And are there any final questions, comments? Well, hearing none, we're adjourned. Thank you so much.
I love it. Website now. Yes.
I'm gonna try and add it. But I'll also just sure. Thank you so much.
And it will come back to the city council with recommendations. And that's supposed to happen possibly in May. Well, and that's why the city council is asking for more information. Yeah. Got it done.
Just come up with one plan. I will do it.